Think respiration, think energy. Respiration in biology is a very important process. This is a process that happens in every single living organism. This is a process that happens at a cellular level, which means that respiration happens in every single living cell in a living organism. Before we move on to learning more about the process of respiration, we need to remember that respiration must not be confused with breathing. Breathing is merely a part of respiration and not the entire process. The concept of respiration is central to all living processes. Why? We will learn in the next few slides. All living cells are made up of chemical substances. When we think of chemical substances or chemistry for that matter, the first thing that comes to our mind is reactions. A reaction is an event which produces a change in a substance. So for example, a reaction between carbon and oxygen, such as burning coal in air, changes the carbon in the coal and oxygen in the air into carbon dioxide. An atom of carbon reacts with a molecule of oxygen to produce carbon dioxide. C plus O2 giving CO2. This reaction between carbon and oxygen also releases energy in the form of heat and light. Living organisms get their energy from reactions like this. Of course, not reactions which are violent enough to produce flames, but reactions that release energy. Like you see in this picture here, you see that there are sources of carbon, which is coal and wood, and you have oxygen, which is part of air in the atmosphere. What happens is when coal or wood react with the oxygen, carbon dioxide and energy will be released. Carbon dioxide escapes through the chimney. In our everyday language, we are often confusing the word respiration with breathing. We talk about respiration rate and breathing rate in the same note. But respiration, like I mentioned in the first slide, is not the same thing as breathing. Respiration is actually a chemical reaction that takes place in every living cell. So what is respiration? Respiration is a chemical reaction taking place in every living cell. This reaction is between oxygen and a substance which contains carbon. This reaction produces carbon dioxide, water, and releases energy. Like I mentioned, carbon plus oxygen giving carbon dioxide. Now where does this carbon come from? Food. That is the main source of carbon. Where does the oxygen come from? Air, of course. Or in the case of organisms living in water, dissolved oxygen that is found in water. Now the energy that is released from this process will be used to drive chemical reactions taking place in all our living cells. A very common example of carbon containing food would be glucose or sugar. You may know that the formula for sugar or glucose is C6H12O6. Can you tell me why we get a burst of energy when we have sugary substances or sweets? Think about that. So, what does respiration do? Respiration supplies energy for pretty much every single living process in all living organisms. A few examples would be chemical changes in cells, cell division, germination, muscle contraction, etc. What you see here is the picture of your arm showing the biceps and the tricep muscles. So how does respiration help in providing energy for your muscle or bicep contraction? What happens is that the blood brings food and oxygen to the muscle cells. Respiration occurs in the muscle cells and releases energy. So what does this energy get used for? That's right. This energy helps in the muscles to contract, to be specific, the biceps muscles to contract and pull the lower arm up. This picture shows how the entire process of respiration is actually producing energy for our muscle contraction. You can see that the steps are numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Step 1 is about how air is taken in or air is inhaled and food is taken in through the mouth. Step 2, the lungs will absorb oxygen from the air and also the stomach and the intestine will digest food. One of the products is glucose or sugar, like we mentioned before. Number 3, the bloodstream now carries this glucose and oxygen to the muscles. Number 4, glucose and the oxygen react to produce energy for the muscles to contract. Number 5, carbon dioxide, which is a byproduct of respiration, is carried to the lungs by the blood. What you see here is how the respiratory system, digestive system, circulatory system, muscular system and the skeletal system are all working together. To summarize what we have learned, when we think about respiration, we must think about energy. The most important process of respiration is a chemical process that takes place in all living cells. Every living process in living organisms will need energy, and this is provided by the process of respiration. Breathing is merely one of the steps involved in this entire process of respiration. So that ends our introduction to the process of respiration. In the next video, we will be talking about the respiratory system itself. But before we move on, it is quiz time. Take a look at the quiz and try to answer it to the best of your knowledge. Good luck with that.